Hey, this is Ben from T3, and today I have for you the first game that in the top 16 of Worlds. And as a special guest, I have Jon with me, who's actually the player on the
Yay, we
left.
can watch me. It's exciting, Ben.
Yeah, we get to watch you. And on the right, Jon's opponent is Tomas, and he's actually the Swedish
I think
champion,
he's
was
from
he?
Poland, actually. I think. I could be wrong.
Polish champion.
He was a nice guy. European. There's some good European players there. And I was lucky just to make it to the cut, so I can't complain. But it's interesting that I actually chose to run. I had to pick. I was the higher seed. And you'd think almost anybody with a choice would pick to Corp because Corp's dominated. And they continue to dominate through the seeding, right? Like, you look at the people that got to play Corp the most, they're the ones that kind of finished the highest in the cut. And I made a conscious decision here to play my Kate against his Tennin because I felt that it was actually a favorable matchup for me. I hadn't gotten to play against him, but I had seen him, around, and scouting runs rampant apparently. But I felt like it was a good matchup for me. And I had seen his Chaos Theory deck, which was like a stim shop that looked really aggressive, and I was actually kind of nervous to take my NEH against it. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna go on my skill with Kate, and I'm gonna bring it home. So we'll see how I did, if that was the right call or not here.
Yeah, the stim hacks with against NEH would probably be a little bit harder to defend, but jumping right into it here, and Tennen's just ice, and drew a card. A little bit of a non-standard opening with the
Right.
card.
Well, it looks like we both kept. I saw a Jackson in his hand, and I'm keeping because here I have Deus Ex, which is going to negate some of that nasty face-checking ice that might be in Tennin, and it's going to allow me to face-check his ice. So
Yeah, this lets you go aggressively right from the start, since like Komainu and
that's exactly
Sarugi
right. I would have liked,
are
and
both.
it's going to give me a medical breakthrough, so that's a good start. I would have liked to see a prepaid, obviously, or a replicator, and I didn't. And I kept because I had Deus Ex and some money to start, and it was going to allow me to deny him 10 tokens and face check and run from the beginning. So he let me in a couple times. I got one agenda, and now he's going to draw up, and he's going to get a lot of money here. So it looks like he's showing me a Jackson, an agenda, and 2 Trick of Lights. So that's telling me I really want to deny him 10 tokens as much as I can.
Oh yeah.
And that's going to basically affect what I do here.
And that's a good thing to keep an eye out in general, knowing that when those trickle lights are coming, because that's kind of Tennen's one trick. The Tennin ability will let Tennin Tomas here put advancement tokens on his cards, and then he can trickle light them off, essentially fast advancing the agenda.
Right, so he's sitting on 2 of his fast advance tricks, and I've already scored 1 medical breakthrough. So that means he has in his deck, I presume, 2 more medical breakthroughs so he can fast advance. I saw in his hand a Philotic, which is what I want to go get right here. And I don't know what his other agendas could be. They could be NAPDs. They could probably be Brain Trusts is the likely guess, but it just depends on how he's built his deck. If they are Brain Trusts, which they should be, that's a lot. Almost any agenda that he draws, once he has 10 tokens, he can just score out of hand.
Yeah, now that you turned on his first medical breakthrough.
But what's
So
interesting here is I
you-
hit a Grim, and I have an SMC out, so I have to decide what do I want to do. And I'm letting him run the Grim, and he decides to kill my Deus Ex. And that will, yeah.
Which is interesting, because you definitely have an SMC, and I'm sure you have answers in here, at least like in the way of
There's
a
no point
sharpshooter.
in really getting a sharpshooter. I actually don't have a sharpshooter, but there's no point in wasting an SMC just to get a sharpshooter that I would use up right away. And so my only thing that I could do would be to like go get Atman at 5 or something, and I don't like that plan. So I'm going to take 1 more HQ access here, and I'm going to get Data Sucker because I know I'm going to keep running Archives to deny him Tennin tokens, and I can at least build up some Data Suckers for a little bit later in the game.
So presumably you're running an admin build, and you want to get that going right
Exactly.
off the bat.
And I really wanted to keep going after this Philotic, but getting through Grim is obviously just a huge pain. So that's going to keep me out of HQ until I get an answer. And the problem is my Sentry Breaker is Mimic, and so Grim is bad. Grim is just bad all around. And I really want to pull
really
Philotic
need that,
here, and I
Data
don't
Sucker
pull it. I
then.
think I see another Trick of Light, because I saw Trick of Light over and over again.
Well, he did leave open archives, so at least you can, at the very least, get the archives to deny his ability and get the data
That's
sucker
my
token.
thought at the time, yeah.
So it gives you some more play.
This is interesting. He ices up over HQ again instead of somewhere else. Maybe because he really wants to protect that Philotic. I don't have any really good way to get past the Grim. I mean, I guess I can just keep walking through if I want to give up my Data Sucker. But I think by playing the Data Sucker, I gave him a read that I'm not going to go through there again until I know that I can break Grim.
Right, especially since you actually
for the data
SMC'd
sucker.
for the data
Yeah,
sucker.
otherwise I would
So
have just let him trash it and not
it's,
pay the money. But see,
yeah, clearly an important part of your plans to keep that. And, get
and I
that
have Dirty
going.
Laundry here.
So,
I'm going to use that in archives to get some money and a token and deny him a Tennin counter.
and that's really important. We kind of touched on it earlier, but denying that Tennin ability as much as possible. For Trickle Lights, and usually they play advanceable ice, so through it like might be ice walls, or like I don't know, Shadow, or even some of the other Wayland ice that you can advance. Generally, they're going to have more to do with those advancement tokens on the ice than just Trickle Light off.
Yep.
You know, just have the synergy there.
And I checked R&D because I have a clone chip out now, so that gets me my SMC or Deus Ex back if I need it. And he's just moneying up even more.
Yeah, the clone chip here lets you be really aggressive since you do have all of the answers, or a way to access all of your answers, and enough money there to get to everything, or probably just.
The problem with this game is that I haven't seen a prepaid yet, and against his just ice and money, I really needed to, and so I'm drawing aggressively to find, you know, a prepaid and also other things I have, more dirty laundries, just keep the economy going, and I'm probably tempted to run the dirty laundry into his R&D here because he didn't res before, and I can clone chip stuff out. But I'm making sure, there it is. I'm actually making sure I get my money on the archive run, and then I'm checking R&D again. And this time it's a Lotus Field, and I think that's going to keep me out because Lotus Field, the only way through is Atman at 4 or Zoo, which is still expensive. I might have Zoo in hand. I can't remember.
Yeah, but you do have the bad publicity
Yeah.
too, so there is a little bit of extra money coming back, but even still, Zoo breaking Lotus Field costs 4, so just a big use
He's
of
been
credits.
drawing a lot of cards. I know there's
And-
still an agenda in his hand, and he's got $1 zillion at this point. So and see, he's just gonna keep icing up, which is what he wants to. He just wants to keep getting money and playing ice until he can start getting Tennin tokens, and that's how this game is going. Slowly, badly for me. You can see that he's just, you know, he's not getting agenda flooded, and he hasn't had to use his Jackson to fix his hand, and he's able to just keep building his board state. Or I'm trying to get my accesses in because I need to see cards, and
yeah, and these are also really tough
plays a lot
ice
of-
to actually
Yep.
destroy. In a prepaid K, I'm expecting parasites, and you usually try and blow up.
Yep.
I would assume you usually try and blow up ice by lowering the strength.
yeah,
Data sucker.
exactly.
So all of this ice at strength 5 or untrashable really is pretty difficult.
Yeah,
for you
so
to
you can
deal
see
with.
he resed a wall of thorns, so he's got 2 5 strength ice, and I have a clone chip for an SMC, and I'm gonna not want to take the damage. So I could have clone chipped out the SMC, use it to get an admin. That's a very expensive play. Instead, I apparently went and got Deus Ex so that I could not take 2 net damage. I don't know if this is the right play or not.
Yeah, that's a really interesting play. I'm actually. Do you remember what you had in your hand?
It had
at
to
this
be
point?
something important. But I felt like I was drawing nothing but bad cards all game, so I could just have been making a mistake here. Because with 2 ice at 5 on that server, I really want to be walking into there. It's $3 to get in now with an Atman, and I have a bad pub, so for 2 credits a run, I'll be getting a data sucker. The thing is I think at this point I'm thinking I want to put Atman at 4 because of Lotus Field is keeping me out of R&D. So I think that's probably not the right play there. I used a bad pub. I used Kate's ability. It cost me 1 credit to do that. But still, one credit using a clone chip to protect against the net damage is not very good. And I still didn't get an access out of it. So
Yeah, that wasn't more optimal. The Atman at 5, like, it's tough to say because you have no other easy way around Lotus Field, and installing an Atman at 4 and an
It's
Atman
not
at
good,
5 is
exactly.
pretty wasteful.
So I may have had both Atmans in my hand. I might not have been able to tutor for Atman because I had them both. I actually know. That's and it was just, you know, it had been a long night. It had been a long day of Netrunner yesterday. I definitely am not playing at my best here. And Tennin is, you know, I already had been getting some accesses and feeling like, geez, all I'm seeing is money and ice. This is not good. So I'm feeling some pressure. So there's one Atman was in my hand. So I think that's possibly why I didn't SMC for that one. I didn't want to lose the Atman in my hand, and I didn't want to spend the extra to tutor it out. So I probably was looking ahead to this play at the time.
And you're still kind of going about without your
Yeah,
prepaid.
it's
so
hurting
you're
a lot.
losing a lot of money without those
Yeah,
recurring credits.
it's not good. But here I'm finally getting back into the hand, denying tokens, and I'm trying to get that Philotic. And I see another Trick of Light, of course, because I know that there's 2 in there. And
that's one of the things that people don't really consider when you're using recurring credits. Like, prepaid costs 2 to give you 1 recurring credit, and people see it as, well, you only get 1 recurring credit every turn. But those really do pile up. And in Worlds myself, I was playing a deck that relied heavily on using recurring credits. So you don't realize how much those cards will save you until you get to the end of the game and just realized, whoa, that just cost me 10 more credits than it usually did because I didn't have this 1 card.
yeah, and he finally uses his Jackson here, and I don't know what he discards, but he put another Ice out, which is going to keep me probably from face checking because I don't have that clone chip anymore. I can't face check that in case it's like a roto turd or something bad that would kill my Atman.
Yeah, with your really aggressive Atman.
I went ahead and set it at 5. Maybe I should have set it at 4 so I had that ability to do R&D as well. But I think I'm focused on the hand. I was focused on getting into a server I knew I could get into, keeping the pressure on.
Mm-hmm. And he still has that Philotic too.
I wanted the Philotic.
So 1 out of 5 chance, you got to just keep attacking.
He's probably really wishing he'd drawn his Ice Walls and stuff here, so that he could have been advancing this whole time and Trick of Lighting, because he has another Jackson, and it looks like he didn't ditch his.
I think that's a commercialization.
Yeah, he does play commercialization.
There, John.
I heard that like some games he was getting ridiculous, like 10 strength Ice Walls and stuff. So
10 credits for no money down is pretty good.
Yeah, he just wants to weather the storm here and not bleed any agendas out while he builds up his Ice Walls, his Ice Forts, and then fast advance out of his hand. And it's working good for him so far, because I've missed that Philotic a couple times, and the cards that I saw off R&D were just Ice and money. And so, yeah, I had Zoo in my hand too. So that was why I was thinking, probably why I didn't want to lose the cards, was I think I had an Atman and a Zoo in hand already. And so those were my answers to R&D and HQ.
And the downside here is the Data Sucker tokens really aren't doing you a whole lot of good, because aside from the Tyrant, the 2 Ice are at Strength 5, which is what your Atman's set at, and the Lotus Field can't be lowered. So it's kind of a moot
exactly.
point.
I could get a Parasite out and maybe use that if he starts building up tokens on something, and I can murder it. But he's going to purge here soon, if I remember. That Tyrant, he goes ahead and reses so that he can just advance it the old-fashioned way, because I'm denying him his free tokens. So that's a good. He has the money, so he's gonna build up, and so now he can fast advance off of that Tyrant, and it's gonna make it harder to run there for me.
Right, and it's gonna sound weird. I don't remember what Tyrant does. It adds end the run subroutines. I believe it costs 7 to res and 4 strength.
And for each one, it's end the run.
Okay.
And I don't have a barrier breaker, so that locks me out of that.
Yeah,
I'm afraid to face check that face down Ice. I don't have much money because I haven't seen my prepaids. I have a same old thing that can be money at this point, but it's not so good without a couple prepaids out. And so at this point, I'm very frustrated because I've seen a lot of cards. They've all been Ice and money, and I've got 1 agenda to show for it, and that's 1 agenda that he doesn't even mind losing. Right, that first medical breakthrough, he's gonna give that up no matter. He would just probably put it out and let me steal it. I mean, he expects that first one to go, and so it couldn't be better for him right now. He's seen all his money. He Jackson back in. I don't know if you saw. I think a bunch of money, restructures and stuff. So he just put a bunch more money back in his deck, and he's got some strong Ice out at this point. That's tough to deal with.
And there's a couple things here that happened with him resing and advancing Tyrant twice. Is now he has the Trick of Light play, so he could fast advance the Philotic out next turn. So you either have to steal the Philotic here or destroy the
Which is
Tyrant,
what I'm going to do. I want to deny him that good piece of Ice, and I want to take away his ability to get those tokens on his own terms. So that's exactly the play I make, which is I get my Parasite and I murder it. And it cost me all my money, so I actually don't think I can get in to see a card, but at least I took away his play that turn.
You're denying him points at this point. Like you know that it's there, so by destroying it, makes that play. Makes the play disappear. Really.
It looks like he's got a Sarugi. He's going to put on archives here. He's going to try to probably ice up and then purge so that I can't destroy more ice, which is a good play. Now he knows that Lotus Field is pretty good defense on R&D. It's expensive to get through. I can't destroy it. I haven't gone through it very much. I have Zoo out, but it's still pricey to run through. So, and I have no credits right now. So,
and with the Sarugi over archives, he has complete control over that. You don't have any way to break it, and he can either not spend money and deny and get the advancement tokens for himself, or he can spend money and try and blow your hand away. So it gives him a lot of control over archives.
Exactly. He's probably planning on purging soon, I would think, because he doesn't want me to murder more ice, because that's how I build back the board state. He wants lots of ice out. I want not lots of ice out, obviously. And so now he's finally getting a token for the first time in the game. So I did pretty good denying him, which I think is the key to beating Tennin, denying those tokens. That's the first non-successful run of the game, and he's just going to get $1 zillion again. And he wants another non-successful run so that he can have 2 on there to advance. And Lotus Field is a safe place to put that token because it's not going away.
Yeah, there's no way it's going to go away. He's obviously never going to overwrite it, especially when it costs you 3 to get through it, and including you spend the bad pub. So it's not a cheap way, or there's no cheap way to get into it.
Right. So I'm just having to take a turn. I use my same old thing to play a Lucky Find, which is not really that great when you don't have prepaids out. So I remember feeling this game every time I drew a card that I was just sad. I was sad with every card.
It's not a prepaid. It's not a prepaid.
So he's going to ping me with we both know what's coming here. I know that Philotic. And I think I forget to draw a card with Astrolabe here because it happened so fast. He didn't really go through the motions of put the card out, do the thing. It was just... and so I'll call Lucas over to ask real quick in a minute what we should do, because Astrolabe is a must ability, not a may ability. And so a lot of times when people they forget to take their Desperado card, like, well, I have to take it. It's a requirement, and they'll take it on me like 2 turns later.
And missed triggers are something that the Netrunner rules sadly don't actually lay out guidelines for. There's no precedent set for what to do when a trigger is missed, or that's actually one of the big areas where a lot of people feel Netrunner's lacking, is that some of the official rules don't outline all of the
and Lucas is hesitant, I think, to put any of those down officially. I think he likes to keep it just kind of, judgment here, judgment there. So here he purges. I spent money again to see another card up underneath that wasn't an agenda. And so I honestly feel like at this point in the game, the Corp's been pretty lucky. He drew with Jackson. He drew a bunch of cards. I mean, he's drawn up, and he has not seen very many agendas at all. I haven't had a chance to check the face downs in archives, but I can be pretty sure they're not agendas because he shuffled in all economy. So at this point in the game, we've gone a good way in. I finally see a prepaid, and he's seen 2 agendas the whole game. So this is about as unfavorable of a draw, me versus him, as I could think to see.
And even in his hand, it doesn't look like he's holding any agendas. So they're not coming up in his deck.
Yeah, he got the draw that he could have asked for. I mean, as far as I can tell, at least. And so that's kind of frustrating. But at least I don't feel like I've made a ton of mistakes at this point. It's been more just tough places to be in, right? And
and you do have a pretty good board state. Like most people would say, Atman, Zoo, and Data Sucker. Even without the counters, you're doing pretty well, and you have the console and same old thing. So you have a lot of options to you on the field itself. It's just not your whole game up until this point hasn't really gone
at this
way.
point, with the accesses that I've had, I needed to see 2 more points. I think to be only at 2 points this far into the game as a runner is not a happy thought. I mean, if I was playing against someone who's trying to build a remote and I'm just trying to keep pace so that I can threaten the remote, that's a different thing. But in this one, where they're going to score out of hand, or they're going to score if they top deck an agenda, you kind of need to see some earlier success. This is where we're talking about the mandatory draw from the thing.
I think this is where we called over a judge, and the first judge I believe was Jaffer, but he didn't want to rule on it, so he had to call over Lucas. And get an official ruling from the designer itself, and he ended up saying no. If
Lucas said, "You just pass it; it's fine." And so we continue on, and I get another R&D access, and I see another non-agenda. So I'm wondering if he actually is running agendas at this point. I think I'd make a comment to that effect, like, hey, you know, it's nice to have nothing but ice and money. I think from here is where it starts to get really rough. He's going to ice up some more and get some advanceable ice out finally, and that'll allow him to
just
build
get
up
more
his
value
tokens.
out of his ability and trick of lights.
You know, I still don't have a barrier breaker out, obviously, so I think that might be an ice wall or something that he can use to build his tokens. And I put down an R&D interface because I know he put out that Philotic, and he has one trick of light left in his hand. He may have another agenda, but I have been checking R&D fairly well, and so I'm thinking I need to get into R&D here, and I have tools to get more accesses. So he's going to throw down Quandary, which I can walk through with Zoo. It's just a little bit of a tax. And I see 2 cards, and I don't see any agendas. So he's icing up even more. And, you know, at this point, he's got 2 tricks of light in hand, and that's clearly some kind of ice wall or something.
Yeah, and even with all of your accesses, you still just no luck. The R&D interface hitting
Right.
the table, so you're trying to get him more of a
Yep.
lock, and so you don't have to spend 5 credits now, so 4 including the bad publicity,
Yeah.
just to
And
get
that was all
one
my
access.
money to see those 2 cards. I was hoping to hit something there, have a chance to build before he could draw his next agenda. But now it's looking pretty bad. I don't have any money. He's got what is probably an ice wall on R&D. He's got tough ice everywhere else and plenty of money. So I'm just drawing up looking for
But
money.
using and using the clone chip, and you do have the same old thing with the prepaid, so even a couple of credits would let you get back into range of same old Lucky Find, which I know it costs you 3 clicks to do that.
Yeah, it's not fun to do though. With the prepaid, it's all right, but at this point, it's kind of like a whole turn for that. And when he gets a Tennin token, it's kind of rough, and that's what I do. I think I play. Well, maybe I had it in hand. That
one came from hand. That one.
But I discarded Imp. I possibly should have kept Imp and tried to go Imp the Trick of Light out of his hand. I think he also runs a Biotic too. I could be wrong, but he uses that window there with his Ice Wall tokens to score out another agenda, and so I'm feeling tough. Yeah, I got a clone chip, which means I have access to my heap again.
SMC
and so I feel like I can face check this ice now finally, and I'm going to try to get. I'm worried about he just Jacksoned up, so I'm thinking maybe there's another agenda or 2 in hand.
I'm kind of surprised, almost surprised you didn't sack the clone chip here to get the Imp.
That's a good point. That's something that I maybe should have done. I don't know if I had enough money left. I have 2 credits, so.
But you have your ability
I probably
too,
could
right?
have. And of course I'm going to miss here on this whole access. So like I said,
and right now he does have a 3 for 2, I believe. I believe he does have a 2-point agenda.
He's advancing up that wall again, and that makes to me think that he has it in hand. So I felt like I had to go after the hand, and I don't have a way to get through an ice wall there. This will give me enough. Tokens where I could murder that ice wall. If I run on it, I could clone chip a parasite. But instead, it looks like I'm gonna. Did I say I was running archives? Because at this point, I'm like, or maybe I'm running the Jackson, and he's.
Yeah, I think you're trying to clear that out. But I'm actually wondering, in games like this, do you actually try and count influence? Yeah. So right now we've seen like the
Tyrant,
basically like the Jacksons. And
yeah. So I don't know what he's spending. I'm assuming going into this game he has 3 influence on 3 ice walls, and then he has that Tyrant, which is like 3 influence, 2 or 3 influence, and
I think
and
it's
3
3
Jacksons it looks like at this point. So there's still a lot unaccounted for, and all his ice is just mean Kentucky ice or Oregon Graham.
Really expensive for you to break.
No, he's obviously just winning this money war and winning it well. He's got a lot of money cards in there. He had, I think he played Medical Research Fundraisers. He's playing Celebrity Gift. He's playing Restructure. So his plan is just put out that ice, get a bunch of money, res that ice, and keep you out, right? So his deck is clicking for him perfectly, exactly what it needs to do.
Yeah, and he doesn't have those agendas to worry about either, since there's
Nope. I saw a lot of cards this game, and I'm only on 2 points. So,
well, he's only on 4 points too, so
Yeah.
neither one of you are seeing him.
that's fine for him. He doesn't care because the longer the game goes, the more likely he can just score him out of hand. Once the board
And adding
is
that
advantageous.
fourth piece of ice to.
Yeah, I think he doesn't want me to be able to run in there and murder that ice wall right away.
Well, it seems like even Tomas is accounting, actually acknowledging that he hasn't seen any agendas either. So may as well keep throwing the ice over R&D and keep you
Sure.
from, or make it more expensive.
Okay,
for
so
you to
there's
get in there.
one ice wall that's not advanced. That's gonna. The problem is in order to get past that, I'd have to clone chip a parasite onto it, and then I can't murder the next one, which is the one that has the tokens, which is the one I want to kill. And I really need to kill them both. Now I have a test run in my heap, and I have the same old thing. So if I bounce here, I could next turn, same old thing that. But
Use 2 clicks.
if I murder this ice wall, then he either has to res this next ice wall to keep me out, in which case I'll be able to same old thing a parasite onto it that way, or he has to let me in again, and I get 2 cards. Hopefully I can get 4 points, because the agendas I feel like the agendas have to be coming, right? So you can see me. I'm just trying to keep murdering any of that advanceable ice, and keep trying to scrape those accesses out. But it's tough without. I had to use some of my money cards earlier before any prepaids were out, and so now my deck is going to be running low on good event economy, and in order to get that back, I'd have to play my levy, and that's not something I really want to do.
And you actually ended up bouncing out of that server. I think you did still have the money to get through it, but did you? Well, you must have decided to jack out.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I did that. It's possible that those 2 tokens that are on that ice came from Tennin tokens and not from advancements, and so I was thinking it could be something mean, but I don't know why I would. It's possible that he just didn't res the next ice, and I didn't want to pay through the Quandary and the Lotus Field, because I don't know. It's a great question. I can't hear the audio, so who knows what I was thinking, right?
Right. Well, I might have miscounted the money too. I don't think you used a bad pub, but the 2 accesses there could have been pretty big. If that
I
was
wish I
the
could hear
case.
what we were saying, because you'd think I'd want to take those 2 cards. We're talking about it now, but no, I mean,
It's always
Yeah.
different in the moment, and you are drawing hard with
you can
these
just
diesels.
feel this game kind of slipping away. So I kept drawing and not seeing things that I needed to see.
Yeah, you still really don't have a whole lot of money, and he just keeps throwing more.
Yeah,
ice
it's
out.
hard to get money when he's taxing it away on all these runs, which is good. He's playing, just build the ice up. It's nice when you don't have to worry about a handful of agendas and stuff, right? So,
And now looking back, again, we're going to touch on these prepaids, but you've lost a lot of money because you've
yeah,
only seen
exactly.
one.
So my deck has 2 replicators and 3 prepaids, and I love to see those early because replicator gets all 3 prepaids out at the very beginning of the game, and that is just so strong when it works. So
You seem to have a habit of including much
do.
unloved cards and making them work out.
yeah, it's interesting,
Uh,
especially with NEH being so strong. You'd think it would be too slow, but I did fine against NEH. So how am I? No, I'm bouncing and I'm discarding down. There's a replicator right there, and
Not
at this
really gonna
point,
do
it's
you too
it's
much
not
good at
worth.
this point
Yeah,
in the
it's not
game.
worth having.
But for those of you who don't recognize John's voice, he actually was placed first in the regionals in Northern California, and I believe Brian was commented and did an interview with you after the fact, where you same old Kraken in that tournament.
Yeah. I called this deck I Miss Kraken because I miss Kraken. But there wasn't time for it against all the NEH. It'd have been nice to have against a deck like this, of course, but there just wasn't the slots for it.
And you still have to steal the agenda, so this game wouldn't have really worked out for that either.
I've only seen one the whole game, and he's at 6 points now. So I don't know. I wish I could understand. We talked about why did I bounce off that ice wall earlier, and It looks like I want to
It's
kill the ice wall. Okay, I'm saying that's the wrong card. I didn't mean to play the second underneath. I meant to play the snowball to get through the ice wall. They were both 4-cost in my hand, and I grabbed the wrong one. And then I'm gonna try to see a couple more cards here. But I'm assuming he has the win in his hand at this point, because he.
Well, he doesn't have the 2 advancement tokens.
Oh,
you're
I'm assuming like a
a
clone retirement, like a 2-1 or something, because he's gonna fluff up R&D here, just to make it less likely that I get in.
Yeah, so this is probably going to be your last set of accesses, just with how he's acting.
Yeah,
too.
and even if I'm only gonna see 2 cards, so there's no way I can get 5 points off 2 cards, assuming that he's running, a standard-ish.
No, you're going to score that sweet future perfect.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have one to keep, especially if he's running like some 2-1s. So I think this game was very interesting. In how he iced up. He put a couple of 5-strength ice in a row, so I put Admin out at 5, but then he was able to put some other tricky pieces of ice out elsewhere to make that hard to get around.
Yeah, and these Lotus Fields I think really shut you down, especially when the only other ice that he had for the early game was Strength 5. So your choice was Admin at 4 or Admin at 5, and really neither one of those is ideal for you early game.
And he draws up here with Jackson, and he gets that winning agenda, and so it looks like I get one more turn to score 3 points with not very much money. So it doesn't look too great here. And I used a legwork already, so I could same old thing into another legwork, which
which would cost you $1, but then you
Yeah.
would still need what? I guess only 1 more to get through the Wall of Thorns technically, and 4 to get through the.
Sure. So he's going to discard down, and he's going to, I assume, he's got 1 agenda in hand, and it's, I think, probably a 2-1. So my plays at this point are try to get into R&D and hope that the top 2 are agendas. But I think I do something weird here, and I actually run on archives. I don't remember why I do this. We'll see.
Well, it's kind of the Hail
I'm sitting
Mary,
here
right,
thinking,
at this point?
I mean, everything looks bad at this point. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I could same old thing into a legwork if I get enough money. It costs a lot to get into that server. I mean, I can walk through the Grim at the end if I need to.
Well, it would only cost you 5, including the legwork.
So instead, I'm going to Dirty Laundry Archives. 1, to force him to do some, use that Jackson res, put some agendas back into R&D if I can't get in, that kind of stuff. But what ends up happening, I think, is that Tsurugi's going to keep me out. So there's the ice wall there that I can break. Oh, also, I think one of the things I'm thinking is that, I get him to res that ice wall, I can murder it, and if he's trying to score with a Trick of Lighted 3-2, I'll keep him from doing that. But if he's trying to score with the last Medical Breakthrough, there's not much I can do, because at this point, Medical Breakthrough is a 2 advancement. So that's what I did. I didn't end up going through. I'm going to murder that ice in case his winning play is a Trick of Light play. This is going to buy me more time. But it's because I haven't seen any clone retirements yet, so I don't know that he's necessarily playing them.
Right, and it's really not a given with those 2-1s in Jinteki, so he could just as easily be playing a 3-pointer in there to thin out the density.
And he uses his Jackson. He has 8 credits. He could have let me in because he could have res that Tsurugi because he still had enough credits to score it. But he shows me he has the Clone Retirement in hand, and then that's game. So.
Yep. So unfortunately, couldn't pull it out there. He just didn't see agendas and saw all of his ice and money. It's really tough to do anything about.
So we can make a case that maybe that legwork at the end was a better call. It depends on what, you make the read as the runner, right? Everything is tough to run on. You only get basically 1 shot, and the draw up with Jackson, discard a bunch of cards down is usually never a good sign when it's on match point like that. So. Same old thing, legwork may have been a better call, but if I missed it, that was the whole. I'm only getting 1 thing this turn, and so I think at the time that my decision was, okay, no, if I can murder this token bank here, that might buy me more time because I hadn't necessarily seen a clone retirement yet. Did not work, obviously. So that match, what did you think?
It's tough. The cards didn't like you. You didn't really have anything in your hand that would have propelled you ahead. I don't really think. Meanwhile, he had everything he needed to slow the game down. So you were kind of working against each other in that way as far as game tempo goes.
That's how I
Um,
felt too. I felt like nobody made any mistakes. He played very well. I didn't do anything really boneheaded. And his deck just set him up for everything he needed. It gave him money and ice early, and then it gave him the agendas late. And I, on the other hand, didn't see the key cards that my deck's built around, like prepaid. And that ended up basically making it so that at the end of the game, I was not able to do a whole lot because everything was so expensive to run, and I couldn't generate any money easily. So that was a good matchup. It shows you that Tennin is strong if you can just get, everything iced up, and then it's hard
and
to run on them over and over again when everything is so expensive.
Right, and this was also just the very first game of the top 8. So just to give you an idea of some of the other matches that FFG wasn't streaming. So there's definitely a lot of good stuff going on, or top 16, excuse me. There's definitely a lot of good stuff
Right,
going on up there. It wasn't all
unfortunately, that
NEH.
loss did put me a little bit on tilt for the next match that I had to play, and I played Elad, and I was NEH, and that was also a very close game. And this game didn't feel like a close game at all. I came out of this game feeling like that was terrible. I drew nothing good. All I saw was ice and money. What do I do different, basically? And I don't think, looking back at it, that there is that much that I really do different. There's a couple things we talked about that, maybe I could have done that play or something else. But, he was just playing his deck the way to play it, which is just he was drawing in, he was playing his money cards, and he was icing up. And that got him through. Basically, he weathered the storm of the game early where I got my accesses in and I didn't see much, and that gave him a great position late game to close it out with his fast advance tricks. So he also, like I said, I think he also runs a biotic in there, which is a good, if you're not able,
Splash.
if
That's a really
you're
good
not able
splash.
to build up those tokens, if someone has murdered all your ice with Parasite or something, that still might win you the game on that, biotic out, brain trust or something at the end that they're not expecting. So I think that's pretty good. I think it's a great Tennin deck. I obviously did very well with it. And I would have loved to get the chance to play him again just to see if that game is a little bit more winnable when our decks one is not, I felt like my deck was not doing me any favors and his deck was giving him the draw. And that's Netrunner for you sometimes. Sometimes that's how it goes. It's going to happen.
It's just going to happen. It is still a card game. It is still
Yeah, but
random,
watching it
essentially.
again, I'm glad to say I don't think I made a ton of terrible reads. It's maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like for the most part I was getting my accesses where I could get them, and he was doing a great job of making that very tough to do. Just all of those accesses were expensive, and
And both of you knew your decks very well. You had complete control over what you did with the cards that you had. Like, everything was a good decision. There wasn't anything that looked like it was really a mistake.
yeah,
Very
I think
deliberate.
that they were both well played hands. His choice of Grim on HQ early was kind of interesting, and I could have just kept walking through that Grim for a while, but he iced up over it right away, so that would have been a bad choice. And it took him a while to ice up Archives, but he finally got everything kind of secured up, and then that was when you could see he just started to just keep building that up, and pretty soon it just looked so ugly sitting across the table there. Like, anywhere you look, it's like, this is terrible, that's terrible, everything is terrible. and that is a good place for the corporation to be in. So props to Thomas for a well-played game.
Both of you, again, very well played. Congratulations again on top 16.
Thanks for recording this game. It was
far-
good to. Afterward, I really wanted to see. I'm like, did I just play that terrible, or was that just a game that was going to be hard for me to win no matter what? And so,
Yeah, you came right up to me after the game was done. Like, I want to watch that game.
I want to see that game because I remember that game definitely left me feeling very disheartened, and it put me on tilt for my next match against Elad, which also did not go well, unfortunately. And that was the end of my day. But man, it was great to get up there and play against those amazing, some amazing runners and amazing players. So it was a good day.
And at this point, we're well into black, so I think I'm going to
Yeah.
cut it short there. Thank you very much, John, for joining me today, and hopefully we can have you on again
Thanks,
sometime.
man. That was awesome. Thanks for recording the game.
All right, and thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be back with more Worlds coverage soon.